Marshall Peak, Chapter 1779, A Bit Tight. Published by Divine Tao Library. Translator, Salavan and Pew Pew Lasergun. Editor and proofreader, Leo of Zion Mountain and Dale Ligerkeys. Senior, your position is still very dangerous. Forgive me, Yang Kai called out sharply before rapidly grabbing Luo Lan's waist and pulling her into his arms. Caught off guard, Luo Lan had no time to resist and soon found herself nestled in Yang Kai's embrace. Letting out a yelp, her eyes bulged as she instinctively pushed her Saint Chi. Senior, check behind you. Yang Kai spoke extremely fast before Luo Lan could act. Luo Lan was startled and quickly released her divine sense to check the situation behind her. In the next instant, her expression changed dramatically. Less than a finger's length behind her, the seven-colored radiant light was freely flowing. If it weren't for Yang Kai pulling her in a moment ago, at least half her body would have been covered by the seven-colored radiant light body. With the terrifying power of this light, she could imagine how terrible her end would be. Even now, her position was precarious as the light which washed around the void crack could touch her body at any time. Quickly understanding her situation, Luo Lan felt some lingering fear. She realized that Yang Kai was not trying to take advantage of her and had really just acted out of necessity. Dispersing her Saint Chi, she said with some embarrassment, I apologize, I overreacted a bit. It's fine, Yang Kai shook his head, frowning to himself as he felt his situation was quite difficult. Although the safety zone created by this void crack was technically big enough to accommodate him and Luo Lan, their current state was quite uncomfortable for both of them. Right now, they were almost face to face and their bodies were close enough that Yang Kai could clearly feel two astonishingly soft and elastic peaks whenever Luo Lan leaned in closer. On top of that, when Luo Lan spoke, the orchid scent and heat of her breath was directly transmitted to him. If someone who did not know the truth saw this, they would likely think that Yang Kai and Luo Lan were doing something shameful, but in fact, both of them were stuck in an abyss of suffering. Yang Kai was better off as he was a man. Although it was somewhat uncomfortable, he soon calmed down and after purging his heart of wicked impulses, he was not too uncomfortable. Thinking about Su Yan and Chia Ning Chang to dispel any distracting thoughts that surfaced in his mind, it did not take long for him to return to a state of calm. On the contrary, Luo Lan's face gradually became redder and redder, that blush soon spreading to her neck, her embarrassment and shy response giving her another layer of attraction. Her tender body which was being held by Yang Kai was extremely stiff but still shivered slightly due to her tension. She never thought that a situation like this, where she would have such close contact with a young man like Yang Kai, would ever have happened to her. This was something that had never happened before. The feel of his solid chest, broad arms, and rich male aura flooded her senses, making it impossible for her to calm her mind. Her cheeks felt like they were on fire and she was certain her face was completely red. Blushing like this front of a junior, Luo Lan simply could not wait to find a hole to crawl into and never emerge from again. But when she remembered that the seven-colored radiant light was less than a finger length away from her back, and she had to maintain this position with Yang Kai for at least half an hour, Luo Lan became more and more uncomfortable. Anxious, she began fidgeting involuntarily. Senior, please don't move around, Yang Kai smiled bitterly. He had just dispelled all the impulses in his heart and was able to reach a state of mental tranquility, but Luo Lan had instantly nullified his previous efforts, especially when he felt two small bumps which were pressed up against his chest become slightly stiff. Listening to Yang Kai's words, Luo Lan became even more embarrassed, quickly lowering her head and burying it in his chest. I'll turn around, Luo Lan suddenly whispered. It was too embarrassing for the two of them to continue facing each other, and she thought that if she turned around, the situation would become somewhat easier. Yang Kai nodded, letting go of his hands which had been holding Luo Lan's waist. Luo Lan turned around cautiously, lest she touch the seven-colored radiant light which was so close, but she eventually managed to put her back to Yang Kai's chest. Yang Kai immediately discovered a new problem though. When they were facing each other, he could clearly feel Luo Lan's incredible peaks, and while now he could no longer feel that amazing elasticity, now her perfectly round half-moons were pressing up against his lower half. Luo Lan was also clearly aware of this. After turning around and settling into place, she instantly went stiff as if struck by lightning, no longer daring to move at will. The two people felt like every breath that passed was an eternity. Senior, Yang Kai suddenly spoke. Luo Lan was taken aback and her whole body tensed. In this embarrassing atmosphere, Yang Kai suddenly calling out to her really shocked her, especially when she felt his breath right on her delicate ear, as if someone was gently stroking it. After thinking about it carefully, I think it's best if I leave, Yang Kai said. Leave? Luo Lan was stunned. Where can you go now? After forcefully stabilizing her mind, she quickly understood that Yang Kai's proposal was made out of consideration for her innocence and reputation, and her heart couldn't help warming. She felt that this young man was quite agreeable. Instead of taking this opportunity to take advantage of her, he was able to remain rational and composed, a commendable feat. However, the entire Medicine Valley was currently covered in the seven-colored radiant light, so there was nowhere for Yang Kai to go. I can enter the void crack, Yang Kai replied. Enter the void crack, Luo Lan gawked. Although she knew that Yang Kai was proficient in Space Force, she did not know how profound his achievements were, so the instant she heard Yang Kai's proposal, she immediately worried about him putting himself in danger. If he were to enter the void crack and become trapped, unable to find his way out, he might even wander about inside the void until the day he died. Yang Kai nodded. This place is big enough for a single person to hide comfortably, but for two people, it's a bit tight. But, are you sure you can come out from there? Leaving won't be a problem, Yang Kai nodded. He had already traversed the void crack here, so he was not concerned about his safety. The only risky factor was that the place he re-emerged might not be this Medicine Valley but rather another place in the Severed World. If that were to happen, his loss would be great. The only way to guarantee that didn't happen would be to not move once he entered the void, so when he tore space again, he could return to the exact same spot. But Yang Kai was not interested in explaining all of this to Luo Lan. After all, their relationship wasn't so close he could share the secrets of his abilities with her. Luo Lan went silent for a while before whispering, actually, you don't need to take such risks. We can just stay like this for a while and wait for the seven-colored radiant light to disperse. Yang Kai being so considerate made her quite reluctant to let him take unnecessary risks. Many thanks, Senior, but I've already decided, Yang Kai said with a smile and moved to dive into the void crack behind him when suddenly he thought of something and said, that's right. Senior, this junior will give you a little gift. A gift? Luo Lan asked curiously. As soon as she asked though, Yang Kai reached out and tapped her shoulder gently. Good luck, Senior, Yang Kai called out before diving into the void crack and disappearing. The space behind Luo Lan suddenly became empty, leaving her somewhat absent-minded, but soon, she stepped back once to improve her margin of safety. Only after she stood firm did she have time to check what Yang Kai had given her. Probing her shoulder with her divine sense slightly, in the next moment, Luo Lan exclaimed, this is. She did not know how, but when her divine sense probed the spot where Yang Kai had just tapped her, she was suddenly able to clearly feel the Space Force fluctuations around her and perceive the hidden void cracks in her vicinity. She immediately understood what kind of gift Yang Kai had given her. With this gift, she could travel unimpeded through this severed world without having to worry about running into hidden void cracks. Luo Lan was ecstatic. Thank you. Even though she knew that Yang Kai would not hear her thanks, Luo Lan still called out gratefully. This encounter had made her thoroughly understand what kind of person Yang Kai really was, and just how great his potential was. It was no wonder young Master Gu Jianxin admired Yang Kai so much, it was because he has such charm and ability. In the past, Luo Lan showing goodwill towards Yang Kai was almost entirely because of Gu Jianxin and because she wanted to rely on his proficiency in the Tao of Space. But now, even without these factors, Luo Lan would not despise Yang Kai despite him only being an Origin Realm junior. This boy was an upright character full of potential and definitely someone who should be befriended. In the future, there may be many times she would want to draw on his support. Thinking so, Luo Lan secretly made up her mind that after returning to Azure Tree Star, she would take good care of the twin shark island Yang Kai now owned. Inside the void, Yang Kai floated alone. Leaving behind that space mark for Luo Lan so she could perceive the existence of void cracks around her was not something Yang Kai had done because blood had rushed to his head. From beginning to end, he never had any improper thoughts about Luo Lan. He just felt that if Luo Lan was safe and grew stronger, his residence on Azure Tree Star and the cross-cultivation star space array which was housed within it would be safer. What's more, giving her that space mark didn't take him any effort or cost him anything. Since that was the case, why not? After entering the void, Yang Kai did not remain in place but instead began wandering around. In any case, the seven-colored radiant light would not withdraw for the next half an hour, so he had some time to search for true space spirit crystals in this void crack. In this land filled with opportunities, Yang Kai did not want to waste any time. However, he also did not want to move about randomly and accidentally leave the scope of the Medicine Valley. For this reason, he deliberately left behind some markers wherever he went. If his hypothesis was correct, he could follow these markers back to the place where he had separated from Luo Lan.